Hello, folks. For the next few minutes, we're going to talk about the IRS Freedom Package, which is an educational and research package, including video workshops that will enable you to change the relationship that you have with the IRS forever, and in a really, really good way. You can be friends with the IRS, you can wave from a distance, you can send them postcards if you like. But your relationship is going to change. You can admire each other from a distance, and one will never bother the other again, if that's what you want. And it's never been safer or easier. There is virtually no risk in this process, and I say that right up front. No confrontation, no challenges, no arguing. We're going to agree with everything and follow the law. All right? Is that fair enough? Folks, this is Mark Emery. I'm the author of How I Beat Satan and the IRS. It's a fun book, short, quick, easy read, broken down into 12 chapters of different elements of how the IRS tricks us and how they pull their shenanigans and have kind of pulled the wool over our eyes. And so this book kind of exposes all that, and more than that, it's really my own personal testimony as to how I found harmony between God's law and man's law. And I'm using that to my benefit for my own personal freedom and liberty. Okay, so the idea of finding harmony, I know, is not terribly congruent with the image portrayed by the cover, but nonetheless, you can kind of pick and choose whatever context you'd like to use there. I've also authored One Free Man's War in the Second American Revolution, which portrays many of my adventures in fighting for truth and justice using the law. And you can find out more about both of these books on the webpage onefreemanswar.com. In fact, I'm going to go one step further. I want to give you a free copy of my book, How I Beat Satan and the IRS. You can download it. It's absolutely free. Go to the Defend America page, which you'll find on the menu right under the home page. And there you'll find the link to download it. And the only thing I ask from you, there's no money involved, but I do ask that you read the Defend America page and participate. We want to try and get the word out to as many people as possible, and all I'm going to ask you to do is to share this free book with at least 2 other people who agree to do the same thing you've just done. That's not too much to ask, is it? We want to spread the truth. We want people to follow the law, and in doing that, we can all live a life with much more peace and harmony. So, get your book, and we'll be talking about different elements in that here in the next few minutes, okay? The fundamental concepts underlying this package, this educational package, are real simple. Number 1, we don't argue. We agree. We're not going to argue statutes. We're not going to argue, oh, this doesn't apply to me. Oh, I'm not a U.S. citizen. Or this statute or that regulation or no enforcement or none of these silly arguments, okay? We're not going to argue with anybody. We're going to agree. And right off the bat, we're putting ourselves in a good position of acting in good faith. We want to comply with the law. We're trying to comply with the law. We're asking the IRS. I've come across these couple of conflicts in the law, and I need your help in interpreting that. So if you would please, Mr. IRS agent, just clarify this for me, and I'm more than happy to proceed with anything and everything that I'm lawfully and legally required to do. Okay, just clarify for me these things. And in the process of doing that, you're going to establish the record with your good faith attempt to comply with the law, and the only logical or reasonable interpretations possible are those which you have come up with, and these are defined by the courts. So we're standing on the statute and the supporting case law. And we're standing on this law. This is the prima facie case, unless or until it is rebutted. And these aren't my opinions. These aren't your opinions. These aren't patriot arguments. We're standing on the law, on solid ground. These are the words coming directly from the courts, from the IRS themselves, from the regulations, and that's all we have to go by, isn't it? We can't go by anything else if we want to be in good position and good standing. Okay, so these are some of the fundamental concepts. And so we want to offer to pay. If they say that you owe money, maybe you have an amount due, back taxes, interest, penalties. All right, if you say I owe it, I agree to pay it. I'm not going to argue that it's owed to begin with. Maybe it started with a $1,000 liability, and with penalties and interest now, the IRS has accumulated it to $44,000. I'm not going to argue. I'm going to agree to pay it, okay? And I'm going to pay, conditional upon just a couple of items which the law requires you to have to be a creditor in good standing with a legitimate claim. So, fair enough, IRS. You want $44,000 for that $1,000 that I originally owed you? I'll pay it. All right, just show me these couple of things that establish that you're in good standing as a creditor and that you have a legitimate claim. That's all I ask. And it's the law. Okay, so just show me how you're complying with the law, and I'll pay. And of course, we know in advance we're asking for things that we know they cannot provide and will not respond to, and they will default. So that's pretty simple. The operation of law is what makes this work. This entire process and package basically is an offer to pay in full, and with those conditions that we've offered, we're happy to pay. Now, if they fail to provide those conditions or provide any documents or evidentiary documentation to prove their good standing, and fail to do so in a timely manner that is prescribed in my offer as a part of my conditions to pay, they have in fact refused. So when they fail to respond in an appropriate manner or in a timely manner, and they just won't respond, period. We know that from experience. But the law in the Uniform Commercial Code is very clear that an offer to pay in full which is refused is a debt paid at law. So you're going to offer to pay in full, you're going to have some conditions, and when they fail to fulfill those conditions, which we know they will, that debt by operation of law is paid. Simple as that. Now we know that an unrebutted affidavit stands as fact. And in the process of going through these procedures, you will have one or more affidavits that will establish your position in accordance with the law, based upon the law, and when it goes unrebutted, without a counterclaim or without any response clarifying or correcting your position which you are asking for, then that affidavit will stand as fact, and it will be the prima facie case moving forward. We're going to operate with notice. I'm going to give proper notice of what your position is. My position is based on the law. I've done my due diligence. I've done my homework. This is what I've found. Here's my memorandum in my research. And based on this, I can only come to the only logical and rational conclusions which these courts have agreed with. And if I need to be corrected, please correct me within the next 30 days. 30 days comes and goes. Oh, you guys must be busy. You never responded. I'll tell you what, I'll give you another 10 days. I'll give you a grace period. I'll give you 10 more days to respond in case you just were a little bit too busy to get back to me. So I'll give you a second chance. That 10 days comes and goes. No response, no rebuttal, no correction of your conclusions. And now we have default. So your affidavit, your position stands as fact. And this is standard operating procedure in the Uniform Commercial Code. It's just black and white. Okay, there's no gray area involved here. This is just standard operation of law. This is what the bankers use. The IRS uses this very same procedure against you. Hey, we think you owe $12,000. If we don't hear from you in the next 10 days, then we're going to proceed to collect. So they're operating on presumptions and assumptions, and you're going to do the same thing. Because silence is consent in law. When you fail to respond, when you fail to rebut the presumption, then that presumption stands as fact. Now here, we're not operating on presumptions, we're operating on the law. So that's a much better position to be in, right? So you stand on mountains of statutes and case law, just mountains of research that's provided in the package, all right? So let's talk about your good faith effort to comply. And it's always important to be operating in good faith. You always give the other opposing party an opportunity to do their job. You give them an opportunity to make their case. You give them an opportunity to establish their position. Give them an opportunity to correct you if you're wrong. Say, hey, here's my understanding. Where am I going wrong here? Let me know. I want to know. Please, I want to comply. Just show me what I have to do. That's the position that we take. So the record is clearly established through the documentation that we create with the memorandums of law, which is the mountains of research that we're going to present. Okay, so the record is clearly established. You've done your homework. You're standing on the law. You're asking for help in determining if your conclusions should be different for any reason. Say, hey, if I'm in error here, please let me know. I'm giving you notice. I'm giving you an opportunity. This is my position. If I'm wrong, let me know in a certain time frame. If you don't tell me where I'm wrong, then I must proceed based on my current position, because you've given me nothing to show that I'm in error here. So good faith is critical. And your attempt to comply with the law should also be matched by their good faith. When two parties are operating in good faith, there can only be one outcome. That's mutual consent, mutual agreement, and resolution of the issue. Now, if you're operating in good faith and your counterparty is not operating in good faith, well, guess what? The record stands in your favor that much more. The cards are stacked up in your favor exponentially, and it becomes obvious. So for a counterparty to be coming from a position of operating in bad faith in the eyes of the courts or the world or anyone else, they've got an uphill battle. So the IRS Freedom Package is for you if the IRS is claiming you owe some amount, if there are any alleged amounts owed. If the IRS is trying to collect a specific figure from you, you need the IRS Freedom Package. We provide a lawful alternative to filing a 1040. So if you have any issues relating to filing the 1040, maybe you just haven't gotten around to filing for the last couple years and you're starting to think, well, geez, I wonder if that's going to sneak up on me someday. The law provides for an alternative to filing the 1040, and that would be in a filing statement. And in fact, one of the chapters of the book you're going to download deals with the filing statement. On alleged amounts owed, there's a chapter in the book on that dealing with what's called the Notice of Offer and Performance. Okay, so those are two specific chapters in the book you can read about dealing with these specific items. Now, in filing the alternative to the 1040, that's going to include an affidavit, and the legal memorandum and research that we're going to be including in that filing statement is basically going to make you such a prickly porcupine that the IRS is never going to want to come near you. You're going to make yourself very undesirable, all right? And there's different reasons for that. If you have notices of lien to deal with, all right, we all know that a notice of lien is not a lien. These are two different things. Quite often the IRS operates using only notices of liens, but they don't ever have a lien. And so the IRS Freedom Package will show you how to deal with that not only in terms of verifying if in fact a lien exists, supporting a notice of lien, but also providing memorandum of law and sample letters to deal with third parties. For example, your employer regarding garnishments, or your bank regarding interference in your banking affairs, or other third parties that might be involved pertaining to liens and notices of liens. Okay, so if you have any one of these three situations, then you really need to get the IRS Freedom Package, because it'll deal specifically with those issues. Beyond that, we're going to use Title 26 of the U.S. Code, Section 83. Now, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if you've never heard of Section 83. I'll guarantee you your tax preparer, your CPA, your accountant doesn't have a clue what Section 83 is. What is it? Section 83 states very specifically that compensation for services rendered, i.e. contract services or employment services, is not considered gross income subject to Subtitle A income taxes. Now wait a minute. What did we just say? We just restated the Internal Revenue Code, which says your wages or payment for services are not subject to Subtitle A income taxes. So why are you putting down those wages as gross income, which are subject to taxes? Wow, that just opens up a whole new can of worms, doesn't it? I tell you, the law is so much fun when you know how to use it. All right, so we'll be getting into that in detail. So that's just one more arrow in your quiver that we'll deal with in this Freedom Package. Basically, we're talking about total immunity here. You're going to take the high road, morally, acting in good faith, standing on the law. Insofar as that is concerned, you're asking the IRS for their help to please correct you if you're wrong, you want to proceed, you want to pay, and that good faith eliminates willfulness. So if the IRS ever had or will have any designs to want to haul you into jail for any reason, which they do, unfortunately, every day with far too many people, in order for them to do that, they have to show willfulness. And to prove willfulness, there are three things they have to show. Number one, that a legal duty or obligation actually exists. Number two, that you knew about that lawful or legal duty or obligation. And number three, that you willfully violated that lawful duty. Now let's review that. First of all, the duty has to exist. You're asking for their help in showing you what that duty actually is. With your memorandum of law and reams of research, you've come to other conclusions. All right, so they have to rebut the reams of research that a lawful duty actually exists in the first place. They're not going to do that. Secondly, they have to show that you knew of that lawful duty. Okay, well, your case is established of what your understanding and interpretation is based on the law and the research that you've done and presented to them, and ask them for their help to correct you if you're wrong. So, obviously, you know that you're proceeding in such a way that this lawful duty doesn't exist. And you've asked them for the help and they haven't corrected you. So they've acquiesced by their silence. And so thirdly, how can you willfully violate a duty if it hasn't been shown that it even exists or that you knew about it? So willfulness is gone. You'll never worry about going to jail for willful failure to file or any other willful violation of the law. Again, the law will be reams of law, and research memorandums of law will be included in your paperwork. Secondly, when you go through the workshop that's included in the package, there's a video workshop called Previous Taxpayer. And in that workshop, we're going to show you how to position yourself so that there's nothing that the IRS would ever be able to seize. You simply position yourself so your assets, your income are not within reach. And that's not at all hard to do. So if they can't put you in jail, and if they can't grab any of your stuff, what can the IRS do to you? Nothing. You're immune. And so now, like I said in the beginning, when you see them, you can just wave, say hi, send them a postcard from afar, and be friends, but just not have much to do with each other anymore on a permanent basis. It's not difficult. It's not challenging. It's not risky. It's not painful. We just need to prepare some paperwork and submit it and ask for their help, and they won't provide it. So the IRS Freedom Package, there's a lot of details involved and a lot of material that you're getting in this. Some of it you don't need, but it's nice to have a complete rounded out package. For full details, to get more information on this, you can find this at onefreemanswar.com. Look for the Advanced Resources tab in the menu on the top of the page, and you'll find the IRS Freedom Package there. I hope I can help you on this adventure. Set sails for open seas, calm waters, nice breezes, and live a life full of freedom and prosperity, doing whatever it is you care to do. That's what the IRS Freedom Package can assist you with. Go take a look, get your free book downloaded, and I'll look forward to hearing from you. Take care and God bless.